Hello and welcome to the first proper video in this series of making a horror game. Now, this first one is pretty much the basic story. You know, I could spend a bunch of time coming up with all kinds of story elements and things, but this really is about coming up with an outline. Just kind of an overall plan for this game. I mean, the chances of me actually being able to make the game are very slim, so I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours trying to come up with every last little detail when it probably won't amount to anything. This is a teaching tool, basically, so I'm just going to tell you what the plan is, the basic planning for parts of it, and then explain why. Now, the basic story I want to go with is something simple. You don't need to reinvent the wheel for a horror game. You know, it's always good to do new stuff, of course. And there's some games that try to go to new places and do new things, but really everything's been done. So there's no real need to try and reinvent the wheel when it comes to making a game. You know, there's only you're trying to improve upon, or well, when it comes to the story elements and stuff particularly. There's lots of areas of gaming that haven't been explored yet. Gaming is a new uh, media, so I didn't mean that there's nowhere to go with games and everything you can do with games has already been done. I meant with the story aspect, which is what this video is about. All every story that can be told has been told pretty much. There's only variations on themes there. So I wanted to go with, for this game idea, this hypothetical game for the teaching tool. My philosophy is, unless you have a really cool idea and you know that you can make it work, for a game you should try and keep things simple story wise, because a lot of it is going to come out through gameplay, and a lot of the time is going to be taken up by playing the game. It's not like writing a novel, for example, where every last thing you have to control, because whether or not somebody continues reading depends entirely on the story. Whereas in a game, the story is a strong part of it. In fact, for a lot of people, the story is really important, and they won't enjoy the game at all if the story's no good, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying you should, fuck off on the story and be lazy, but the story is also there with the gameplay and all the visual elements, and everything else that goes into making a game. So the story you don't have to try and get too clever with necessarily. A clever story is good, but you can be clever later. When you're first starting off, you need an idea, a direction. Where are you going to go with this game? What is the basic idea behind it? So for that, I like to keep things simple, at least to start with. You can always evolve it later. But to start with, since Halloween isn't that far behind us at this point, we're mid-November now, there was a mini-series on sci-fi called Rose Red. It's based off of a Stephen King thing. I know he was involved in it. I'm not sure if he wrote the whole thing. I believe he wrote or did the screenplay stuff for Rose Red. Okay, and that is actually based on the Winchester Mystery House in San Francisco, I believe. It's in California somewhere. Look it up if you're not familiar. It's kind of an interesting story. In fact, the truth is just as strange as the fiction, really. Stranger in some ways, since it actually happened. But I don't really want to go with that, but, having that in my head, the basic idea I want is a haunted mansion and a team of investigators. Okay? So that's our basic plot outline here. Let me see what I've got written here, if I'm missing anything. Nope. So yeah, that's the basic plot outline. There is it's a team of paranormal investigators that are going to spend a weekend in a haunted mansion. Okay, that is our bare bones basic idea behind the whole game. The story and everything else that's going to go into it, and from there we can build up the scaffolding to create this whole thing. That's our foundation, our bare foundation that we're going to build on is this idea of a haunted mansion and a group of investigators spending a whole weekend there. So what does this give us right off the bat? Well, for one thing, it gives us a time frame that we can work in. A whole weekend, you're talking Friday afternoon to Sunday evening. So, you know, we could say that we could work in basically 50 or so hours of gameplay, 50 to 56-ish. We could even go into Monday morning, and basically say that depending on how we work that time frame, we could get 40 to 50 some hours of gameplay by doing it real time in the game. As you play in real life, that's the time that goes by in the game, which could make it slow and boring. So that might be something that would need to be tweaked. But that would also make it different, because most games have a forced time rate where you might spend 10 hours in one area and then 5 minutes in the next, because you just figure things out and slip right through. Whereas the last area you got lost and it took you forever to beat something. So there's different ways you can work with that. So that's something that we might be able to do with the time frame of a whole weekend, is actually do the game in real time. It's actually a simulated investigation, with background stuff. We've created all the background and all the ghosts and everything, but then it's a simulated investigation. So, that's an area we could explore, just based on it being a weekend. I do kind of like the rose red thing of some of the stuff that they did with that movie, but that's more about the setting, so we'll get to that later. A team of investigators, that means that we can have, in stuff going on with all the different characters. We don't have to have just one main character. By having a team, that does remove some of the elements of isolation, at least at first. But there's other things you can do with that as well. So, there's possibilities there. So that's our basic story. It's a team of investigators going to investigate a haunted mansion over a whole weekend. Okay, that's our basic foundation that we're going to build off of. Okay, I think that wraps this video up. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to do that upvote, leave the comments and questions, and share the video with your friends and family and everybody else you know. Forums, websites, blogs, all that good junk. And I think that covers all the YouTube things. So thank you very much for watching one last time, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.